Hey there, and welcome to today's acrylic landscape lesson. Here we are going to attempt to paint this beautiful little fall scene in only 15 minutes. I have my timer ready to go on the clock. As per usual, if you'd like help with the drawing process, you can find the traceable as well as the real-time drawing video where you can watch me sketch it out up over on Patreon. There'll be a link in the description. But with that, we have 15 minutes. I'm going to ask you to wish me luck. And with that, we're going to jump into it right now. Okay, so we're going to begin with a nice damp brush, an abundance of titanium white paint, a little bit of our ultramarine blue, a little bit of our oxide black. We want a good bluish gray for our sky, and I'm going to try to get a nice thick coverage up here throughout the top. Work that back down, and then we'll also use a little bit of it in the road, which it is of course reflecting down into. Now we're going to go with another bright color because this light is reflecting onto the foliage. We'll render some orange leaves with Cad Orange, Cad Yellow, Titanium White, make it pretty bright, and then we'll switch on over to an old flat-headed brush. This has stiff bristled. I'm just peeling them back, grabbing that, and then we're going to start applying some lovely orange foliage. I'm just going to tap this up into the gray top, as you can see. And the farther you get into the gray, the more this dissipates and softens. So you get a really nice gradient and transition. Looks like the foliage in the background's a little bit diffused, washed out, makes it have some early depth. And then as we get closer into the foliage, it gets more opaque. You get more of the traditional cadmium orange look. So again, just a nice easy way of establishing depth early on in the painting. And we're just tapping all of this pigment in. Now we're going to head to our palette, change our mix, grab some additional orange. Now we're going to add some Cad Red for the first time, a little bit of Oxide Black. We are darkening this, making a nice fall color. It's a bit coppery. And then we'll work that right beside and behind our oranges, and we'll create a blend through a tap. Typically, we do a soft blend, but here we actually want it to be a bit more textured. We want all of those little intricacies incorporated. We're going to head on over to the other side here and just keep tapping. The idea is that the middle section is getting the most light, and therefore it will be the brightest, and as we move farther back, it will get darker and darker, and we'll continue to change this color. So back to our palette yet again. We're going to grab a little bit more orange, a little bit more red, and for the first time, some ultramarine blue as well. The ultramarine blue is going to cool it down, works really nicely when you blend it with Cad Red. And as you can see, I'm actually just painting this directly on the canvas right now, saving a little bit of time. The actual motion doesn't matter because we're going to go over it with this brush and create our transitions as we do. But it's a pretty intuitive process once you get to this stage of the background. And it is all still the background. We're going to do a lot of detail work on top of this. We'll cover a good portion of it, to be honest. So if there's a part you don't really love, that's okay. But it's nice to have a strong background because it gives you a lot of option as to what you actually do cover. Now I'm going to grab some extra ultramarine blue, some extra Oxide Black. We really want the edges to be dark and blue because it is a rainy scene. So we'll just work that through there. We'll grab more of that pigment before we mix, put it on to the other side as we do. And now we can grab this brush and get back to the application style that gets this done in the beautiful way that it does. You can see I'm bringing that darker pigment out here and there. It's a good amount of detail. Now let's head on over to the other side before it dries. We are working with acrylics. We do have to be a little bit quick. But it's a 15-minute painting, so we will be quick regardless. You don't have to do this in 15 minutes though. I like the challenge. I think it's fun. Feel welcome to paint this however you are comfortable and however you enjoy. Now we're going to take a break from the top there. We're going to head down into the road. I'm going to make a very dark mixture for the base of the road, as you can see. Going to go all the way to the other side. I'm going to connect that to the foliage, as you can see. And then we're going to just add a little bump on both sides there, so you kind of have this triangular shape and then a brighter shape. We're going to connect that darker road with our foliage through some taps, as we do. So easy, very good. Then we're going to grab an abundance of our titanium white, make a brighter mix, more of our ultramarine blue. We want this to be nice and cool. Nice cool gray. Oh yeah, that's great. And work that out into all of the negative space. Then for the actual blend, how we make this come together, we're going to start working it into the darker paint with a corner of this brush. And we're just going to go back and forth, creating these minute horizontal taps. And what this is going to do, it's going to give us the look of a wet road, a little bit of reflection in that road. There we are. Head on over to the other side. Do more of that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The more the detail, the better. And we're going to add some leaves, some foliage, a bunch of different details on here. But before we do need to let it dry because it's still very wet paint. Painting a wet reflective road, and it is currently a very wet road. So, you know, we're going down the right path with that. That's good. With that, we are going to head back up to the top as it has started to dry. We're going to grab some of our Sap Green, a little bit of our Oxide Black, a little bit of our Titanium White, mix up a mid to dark value green, and then we're going to head in here and we're just going to start creating some foliage for a different kind of tree. It's important in paintings like this that you do have different types of trees, that you have some good diversity in not only color but application. So where a lot of our trees were initially rendered with the flat-headed brush and a collection of taps, this is much more so done with these horizontal markings which go back and forth. Let's get a little bit darker as we get closer inward. Create some depth. You want multiple values to create that depth. And you can see how a lot of the greens just kind of get lost in the orange background. There we go. Not a bad start at all. We can also put that brush down, pick up the liner, make sure that's nice and damp, and then we can do individual little markings which kind of come up and create unique, interesting pieces. We do want some details to really solidify this as a branch that's closer to us. The closer the branches are, the more details you'll actually see in them. But that's a good start. Now I think we go for a brighter branch by going with more of our green, some of our titanium white this time. Mix that up, and you know what, we can even apply it with this to a point. We're building it on top of our previously applied greens. And it's all quite subtle right now, which is really good. I think something a lot of us do with our fall scenes is we make them a little too saturated, but if you want it to look realistic and natural, a more desaturated look, especially on a rainy day, is going to go a long way. So I think this is great. I think we're ready to move on to our next style of tree, which is one with a lot of cad yellow, cad orange, titanium white, hint of our cad red. Beautiful color. Okay, now I'm going to grab a fan brush, going to make it nice and wet. That way the bristles kind of condense. And then we're going to head over here and we are going to start creating some of the branches which really make this feel like a fall painting. Lots of little taps, creating these canopying sections that reach from one end of the painting to the other. We'll work them to the left-hand side as well. But we want them to kind of dissipate in value and in brightness as we work towards the left-hand side, because we're getting closer and closer to the shadows, farther away from the light. We'll do some little taps down here. Just make sure that this is kind of present in a lot of different areas, as it's a fall painting and we're going to have a lot of orange leaves. Also, just having your colors bounce around can be really beneficial for general diversity in a painting, keeping the eye moving. So we're just trying to incorporate a good amount of this. I like it a lot down here towards the bottom, though I think we'll do a red leaf towards the bottom as well. With that, we go a little bit brighter, more titanium white, more cad yellow. Again, we want to build our values. We do that through some areas being brighter, some areas being darker. I think having a cad yellow in this mix is a really nice addition. Though things are still pretty wet, so we're not getting the true cad yellow. It's kind of mixing with our other pigments, which is nice, and then it creates a subtle transition of color. But I think we let this dry for a minute while we switch on over to more of a red mix. So cad red, a little bit of our ultramarine blue, a little bit of our cad orange. Ooh, that's a good color. Titanium white, hint of our oxide black, but I do mean just a hint because it's quite powerful. Now we'll clean this brush. Grab that. Want a good number of subtle red leaves on this side. Want some towards the bottom and back on this side. Up here, over there. We're just kind of bouncing around. And now we want a darker red mix. So cad red, oxide black, a little more oxide black, a little more cad red. And then we're going to do some lining the edges of our road. Should get really small in the distance, but it can be pretty big in the foreground, lots of little red leaves and whatnot, and then little taps that kind of come out onto the road using the corner of the brush. That's nice. Now we brighten our red, like that. Grab a little titanium white. Shouldn't be a real pink because we do have the oxide black in there and a little bit of orange, but it's all starting to come together. Now we'll add some of that red foliage which has fallen onto the ground. We want larger taps closer to us, so I'm applying more pressure to these, and then as we get farther away I make smaller taps because you won't really see the foliage that far away, just the hint and the idea of it. So we'll do a bit more of this, make it brighter and towards the back. Have some little ones that come out onto the road. Beautiful, beautiful. I like that. And how long do we have? We have 2 minutes left. Okay, let's put that brush down. We'll grab some oxide black, a little bit of our ultramarine blue, our larger flat-headed brush. And at this point, we'll create some larger trees that'll go somewhat behind foliage, somewhat in front of foliage. You want it to do both because realistically, these branches are going to have foliage on top of them, but also behind them. Foliage doesn't just grow to the sides of trees, and that's really important to remember as we paint these. I'm starting, as you can see, with the much larger applications, though we can definitely do smaller trees in the distance as well. I'm just trying to get our baseline. Oh yeah. You can see just how much depth these add. You can have them work their way through, behind some foliage, in front of others. It just adds so much to a piece like this. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to switch back on over to a liner brush. Grab a little bit of that dark pigment. Do the tiny markings farther away. You really don't want to apply much pressure with these. You can work with them into the foreground to a point, but for the most part, this liner brush and this section is just for the details, for the background. You can also take the titanium white, a little bit of orange, sorry, a little bit of white, make this area a little bit brighter, little horizontal marks towards the back, make this area quite bright, grab a little bit more of that paint, add some openings in the foliage towards the top, and this will just make it feel a lot more dynamic, a lot more real. There will be openings in the trees in general. And look at that. That is 15 minutes on the clock. All right, so again, there we have it, our 15-minute version of the painting. I think it's lovely. I, however, as you know, cannot put down the brush. I am also doing an hour-long version, which you can find up over on Patreon. I know some of you on the channel like it when I do the quick little paintings. I know some of you like it when I do the deep dives, add all the details and do that. So in theory, there is both of which for both of you, and it just means I get to paint a little bit more, which I love. That said, I'm really loving these fall scenes. We are going to do more of them, so make sure you subscribe. And as per usual, just thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the community. But you can also get the traceable, the real-time drawing video, the color analysis, all of that, the link in the description. And with that, I will see you soon. Thank you, and above all, as always, stay creative.